Med en varm applåd hälsar vi vår första talare välkommen. Välkommen upp på scen, Anders Elbak från IC!
Får jag det där?
Superbra, stort tack. Anders, du ska hålla din presentation på engelska har jag förstått. Men du förstår svenska uppenbarligen. Eller du kanske bara nickar.
Yeah, just not all the time. So, yeah.
Nej, men så vi kan ta frågorna på svenska efteråt.
Yeah.
Jag har bara en första fråga innan vi drar igång. När kom du i kontakt med molnet första gången?
I don't really remember. I think it's been about 10 years, a little more than that, that we started talking about how this coming cloud would either revolutionize the IT world, or was it just ASP, application service provisioning, in another word for that. I've been with IDC for 18 years, so I followed it for quite a long time. And of course, during the years, I've also become a consumer, private consumer of a lot of cloud services that we don't really think of as cloud services anymore. It's just a online service that we all use.
Bra Anders, du ska få dra igång. Varsågod, ordet är ditt.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm not used to getting that big an applause when I go on stage, and certainly not when I walk off the stage either. But I will talk about IT cloud services. So that is cloud, that is as Alexander already mentioned, it's software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and so on and so forth. And my job, I was first in the timeline, so I'll not talk too much about the past, but really where we are today. How mature is the cloud market today, and also a little bit about where we see it going. So, but first and foremost, actually, what is cloud? We have a long document, I think it's about 50 pages long or something like that, explaining what the cloud really is about. But I think basically we know it by now. It is about standard services, solution packaged. It's about self-service, elastic resourcing, and price-based scaling, and price-based. And then it's standards, industry standards using that. And that's kind of the general perception, I think, today, that this is what the cloud is all about. But I think actually more importantly is to look at it in a different context. So what is cloud in regards to IT development, in regards to business models and all that? I think that is much more important than actually the definitions of it. IDC talks about 3 different eras within IT, so I will go back in time initially here as well. We talked about the first platform of IT, that's mainframes and terminals dating back to the early 60s or even the 50s. From the mid-80s, we saw the personal computer becoming broadly used. 10 years after that, we saw the internet really being the main driver for IT and IT innovation. And today, IDC talks about what we call the third platform. A lot of IT vendors calls it something slightly like that, and some of our colleagues or competitors in the market call it something else. But we all agree that really mobility, social networking or social business, and big data and analytics, together with cloud, are really the foundation for IT innovation today. So in addition to how it's defined, cloud is really all about how you build IT today. It's not just a sourcing model, it's also a way of business, doing business, and the way of transforming business, really leverage cloud on that. Of course, the development within IT doesn't stop here. We talk a lot about today cognitive systems, Internet of Things, 3D printing, and all these kind of new technologies that we are starting to test out, that a lot of companies are looking to, because that may or may not change their way of business. And all of these very much depend upon cloud and mobility and this infrastructure being in place. And in essence, really, all of this technology development is really about business innovation and business development. So the way that companies can use technologies in a new way to change the business going forward is really what I think is the most important or the most interesting part of cloud computing. Just for example, this morning when I took the taxi to the airport, didn't use Uber, I used a regular, but nonetheless it was an app. It's based on basically has access to a cloud service. I checked into the plane using an app, which again is based on a cloud service. So these are just kind of the everyday use of cloud that we don't really think of, but that is really all around us anyway. So according to our research, 2/3 use cloud services. It's from a survey which is from a little more than half 6 months ago. So that could be some of the reasons why Alexandra's was a bit more positive, saying that it was 75%, or it could be just that it's a different audience and not quite as representative. Yeah, and probably those more interested in cloud replying to that. But we still also see that it varies how we actually ask about it. If we say, do you use cloud? We usually get a lower number if we ask about all the specifics. Do you use Dropbox? Do you use WebEx? Do you use Salesforce? And when we then add all of these different things up together, we get a significantly higher number. So still, there is actually, I wouldn't say uncertainty about what cloud is, but a lot of companies just use it without really considering what it is. Also, quite interesting to see if we ask how many different services they use. This is from a survey where we asked about 12 different use cases, and very few use cloud for all of these use cases. Most use only 1 or 2 cloud services or cloud within 1 or 2 business areas. So we still see that there's a long way from really embracing cloud to the current use. Even though 75 or 60% is a high number, then it's only very individual use of specific services that we see. If we also look at what the actual use cases are, or the workloads that are used for cloud, we see that it is really about very much about communication and collaboration. So it's the WebEx, the Office 365, the file sharing, different file sharing services, all of that is really what most companies use the cloud for today. Where we see also that in recent years we've actually seen the IT cloud services, so the infrastructure as a service, whether it's dev and test servers, production servers running on Azure or Amazon or whatever it may be, we're really seeing a strong interest in those areas within the last few years, and that's also where we see a lot of interest right now. And the slide also shows the light blue part of this that there's still a lot of interest for cloud out there. And finally, again, we see that the enterprise applications, especially around finance, is really where we see the least use. And it is to some extent something about cautiousness about the finance applications, but it's also about what kind of services are really available. One of the reasons that sales and marketing use it is because of a single application like Salesforce that really revolutionized that specific part of the market and threw Siebel completely off the ground there. So it is very much about what is actually available is also a main driver here. So when we ask about what the companies have actually gained from using cloud and how satisfied they are, we see that about a third they say we are satisfied with the fact that we're satisfied with the cost reduction that we have obtained through using cloud, but we see almost as many actually saying that we are dissatisfied with the cost reduction that they have gained from cloud. When it comes to making the company more efficient, or the business more efficient, we see slightly more being satisfied with that, and slightly fewer being dissatisfied with it. When it comes to generating new revenue for the company, we have about 30% saying they are satisfied with the way cloud have contributed to that, about 20% saying they're dissatisfied with it. And finally, when it comes to innovation, we see that almost 40% say we are satisfied with the way cloud have made our company more innovative, and we have about 15% saying we are dissatisfied with it. So actually my conclusion from a slide like this are, first of all, cloud is and also should be much more than a matter of reducing cost. A lot of companies really start out using cloud because they believe that there is a cost saving in it, but that may not always be the case, and that is why they. But typically they find a lot of other areas where they are very satisfied. Very often they say we want to use cloud because that reduces our cost, but then they end up becoming a much more flexible or innovative company by using it. And the other is where the focus is. As I said, focus is very often on cost, whereas it probably should be around more innovation and flexibility. So when we also ask why do companies actually today buy cloud or are they interested in cloud? So not just when we ask about satisfaction, about the actual experience and those that started maybe a couple of years back, we say those that are interested right now, they are actually also looking for elasticity and scalability of a cloud solution. That's the main driver for that. 47% still think that cost reduction is a key driver, and very often we at least see cost as a barrier. So if the IT department or the line of the individual business unit cannot justify or show a cost reduction using cloud, they are not always allowed to use it. Again, those finance people being the bad guys there. We also see 46%, they say that faster access to the market, faster launching new features faster is a key driver. And finally, we have, again, this about the standardized interfaces. It doesn't require as much integration and so on if you just use it for specific use cases, and if you use it, it's very often open APIs and internet standards that are used. So we see today that the change that we saw some years back, that cloud was really about changing the cost structure from being capex to opex. That has kind of disappeared over the recent years. So definitely, and some new drivers in the market for cloud services. Security is the main inhibitor for cloud services, security and privacy. And in addition to that, we also see that integration, because a lot of companies, they spent several years breaking down these IT silos on their on-premise equipment. Then they started using cloud services, and they had a lot of cloud silos or silos in the cloud, whatever you call it, because they didn't really, when they used the cloud service, they had absolutely no integration with that and into their on-premise solutions. And again, we see performance, availability of services, not very big barriers today. Those were more important some years back, but as more and more services become available, as the performance is better, as companies have upgraded their network infrastructures and so on for using clouds, these have kind of disappeared. And so a lot is about the security and also the perception about security. A lot of companies just think that cloud is not secure, but when they really think about it, that may not really be the case. They very often cloud service providers have a much more secure infrastructure than a company can provide themselves, and that goes for both data security and also about data access stability. So it's not just hacking that's the problem here. It's also concerns about having access to the service and so on and so forth. So looking at cloud priorities, so for the companies that address the cloud this year and next year, what is it they actually address, or what is that they focus on? 19% say, well, it is about security. It is about really making sure that the cloud services they use, whether it's private cloud or a public cloud, that they are secure, that they only put data which may not be business critical in the cloud, and that the data which has personal information in it, that may still reside on their own on-premise equipment and so on. So really focusing on making the cloud that they want to use as secure as possible. We also have a hybrid cloud, and very often, a lot of companies, they don't really realize what hybrid cloud is. Some think it's just about using different public cloud services, then it's hybrid. Most people say that it is about using both public cloud, private cloud, and combining that. But what IDC believes about it is that it also includes the management of it, so that you really integrate it and you manage all these cloud services from a single system, or at least as few systems as possible. So it is about, basically hybrid cloud is about the integration on different cloud models. 12% says it's about putting business apps in the cloud. So that is, we are moving away, not that we don't use the communication applications anymore in the cloud, but it's really, to a lot of companies, they really focus on putting their ERP systems or CRM systems, putting that in the cloud as well. And just as many really about this integration and management, which is correlates very much with hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud is more specific, that it involves different cloud deployment models, whereas integration and management can be just a single cloud service that needs to integrate with some on-premise systems as well at a data level. So some years back we saw really that cloud was very much about the lines of business starting to use a cloud service because they did not feel that the IT department could provide the service that they needed. So we got a lot of these shadow IT things. I was at a dinner here in Stockholm around Christmas last year, talking about shadow IT, and from one of the IT managers from a large Swedish communication company said that they actually, when they did a review of their IT, they found out that they actually had 4 different CRM systems in the company that wasn't sanctioned in any way. So that kind of corporate or shadow ITs, it's not just the people bring in their own device. It's actually that the sales department installs their own or starts using their own CRM systems without involving the cloud things. But my point really is we are moving away from that. We're really moving into a state where the users and the business users, they understand that they need IT to be involved. If they just do it themselves, a lot of problems really arise after that. So we do see, but we still see that in 75%, they say that businesses or the lines of business are involved in the cloud purchasing decisions. However, it's only in less than 20% that the lines of business really drive the cloud initiatives. That is really something that has moved into the IT department again, and it's only a few percent that actually say that they buy cloud services without involving IT at all. So business still drives a lot of what needs to be done, but very, very much IT involvement and really making sure that it is integrated in the overall corporate IT. So with this, as I said, companies using, not just more and more companies using cloud, but they start using more and more cloud services. They use it for not just reducing or not just changing the cost structure. They really use it for driving some business opportunities. That really can be explained by how mature the companies are. And IDC has this model. I'll not go into detail with it, but it's really about the first step is really just trying cloud very often in the different business lines. Try cloud in a few instances. Then as it becomes more and more corporate, it becomes more and more formalized, then we kind of go through this model. And the benefits also goes from changing the cost structure to becoming much more innovative, using it to be more flexible, faster time to market, and all this that we gradually see. We see here in the Nordics, about 20% are still stuck at the early stages. Most are at what we call opportunistic and repeatable. That's where it's becoming formalized, it's becoming integrated, and so on and so forth. And then a quarter are at what we call the managed or the optimized stage. So even though cloud has already changed, the way that we use cloud has already changed quite substantially over recent years, we still see that there is a lot of potential still out there for companies to utilize cloud really even more than what they already do today. And this model not only describes how the market is by seeing how many are at the different stages, it can also be used actually for companies to kind of assess where they are and what their opportunities are. And depending on where they are in this model or in this maturity stages, there are some different things that they need to do to move to the next level. Companies that are only at the ad hoc levels, only trying out, they really need to review their existing cloud use. They need to assess how successful have the different cloud initiatives been, and then start gradually to formalize it. Then it's about installing some teams that drive cloud in the company, establishing some policies around who are allowed to use cloud, what kind of cloud services can be used, and so on. And then going on again, formalizing a bit more, including some governance models. How can we formalize that, and how can we make sure that everything is followed, and so on and so forth. And then gradually also allowing the individual users to use it more themselves, making sure that there is self-service, so that the users do not have to send a mail to the IT department saying, can I please have one more cloud or one more user on this cloud service? So because then you really kind of lose out on some of the possibilities there. And finally, the last steps where cloud is really kind of the DNA, is in the DNA of the overall IT, not necessarily using cloud across all kind of IT systems, but really about using cloud and being aware of where and when to use cloud and where and when not to, and that every part of that has been selected and not something which it just happens to be that way. As I mentioned, a lot of this business development or business innovation that we see, we call that digital transformation today. Companies wanting to be digital in some way or another, and we believe that cloud is really a key driver for that, or something that companies can really leverage for that, because it is typically fast to implement, much faster than most other systems. It is flexible, you can scale up and down, and it is, at least if you do it right, it's also affordable. Of course, we've also seen several examples of how cloud can really accelerate costs. For instance, with companies using dev and test servers, then they just start to when if you don't have a governance structure in place, then a lot of these developers just launch new servers all the time, and you pay by the server. So it can also really kind of make the cost snowball. But overall, we really believe that this is a key technology to use for supporting digital transformation. And if we just look at an example, Netflix, I guess we all know, I guess most of you use it. They of course started, they are a very good example of a digital transformer or a digital disruptor. They distributed DVD movies on by mail, but had a flat rate. You could have 2 DVDs at a time, and then return it by mail, and then you could choose two new ones. They started streaming because, of course, got hugely successful using their own data centers. But this year, actually, they're going to turn off their last of the servers. I don't know if they have done it yet, but they will do before the end of the year, and run their entire service on Amazon Web Services. So again, and one of the key reasons for that is actually that Netflix kept growing so fast that they couldn't build the data centers fast enough, but Amazon could and had the capabilities there. So just showing how it can help you transform, and how really leveraging the technologies or the cloud technology in your own infrastructure can help these digital players succeed as well. So my last words here. Cloud, as I said, we see it as an enabler for this digital transformation. I think it's very important to look at the business value that the cloud can provide. It is much more difficult to really document that to the decision makers or the finance guys again. But trying to shift focus away from the cost and into the possibilities or the business business possibilities, that was difficult to say when I have little time left, is really a key for thinking forward about how to use cloud. And then finally, it really is about business and IT. They must work hand in hand. If IT just runs with this, we'll end up with a lot of cloud services that no one use. If the lines of businesses just run with it, we'll end up with something which are not secure, not integrated, and end up being very expensive. That was it. You're always welcome to contact me. I'll be here through to some of the lunch time at least, but then I have to catch a plane back after that.
Stort tack Anders. En varm applåd för också.